Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar for middle schools called Promising Practices. I'm Gordy Toyama, an Aspire specialist covering different parts of Oregon, including Washington, Multnomah County, the North Coast, and Yamhill County. And I want my counterparts to introduce themselves as well.
Hi there, my name is Nomi Pierce, also an Aspire Access Specialist, covering Lane counties, Josephine, Jackson, Douglas County, kind of going south down through the center of the state. Rochelle, why don't you go next?
My name's Rochelle Ferris. I work with schools in the Mid-Willamette Valley, in the Salem area, and then also up in the Clackamas County area. Oregon City up to Sandy and the North Clackamas School District. In addition, I have sites from Lincoln City all the way down to the California border, Brookings Harbor.
And good morning, my name is Stacy Stonecipher. I work in the Eastern Oregon and Central Oregon region. That is pretty much anything east of the Cascades, all the way to the Idaho border, and all the way down to the very tippy tip corner of Oregon along I-84.
So Stephanie, could you tell us some of your additional roles that you do at Forest Grove Community School?
Yeah, I haven't done Zoom in a while. I just realized because I said Stephanie Woods enter, and I thought I'd go to the next line and then I could write the rest and answer these one at a time, but it doesn't work that way. It just posted it. Am I the only one here? So do you want me to just talk about it? So I'm the experiential learning coordinator at Forest Grove Community School, in charge of 7th and 8th grade, which is like the activities director and the Aspire coordinator. And I also teach art. So 3/4 of my job is art, 1st through 8th grade. And then 1/4 of my job is activities director for the 7th and 8th grade portion of the school. So that's my job. And I'm in Forest Grove, Oregon. The size of our school is 210 kids. So, it's basically, we're leveled. So 1st and 2nd grade is together, but there are 2 teachers. 3rd and 4th grade is together, 5th and 6th grade is together, and 7th and 8th grade is together. And there's another experiential learning coordinator that does 1st through 6th grade, and I just do 7th and 8th grade, but that's her whole job, is to do the younger ages. So the type of middle school, we're a charter school, we're a public charter. So we're part of the Forest Grove School District, but we're a charter school. And yeah, 7th and 8th grade, but I also teach 1st through 8th grade. So actually I've known my 7th and 8th graders since they were in 1st grade. So we have a long relationship.
That is awesome.
Yeah. I've been here 8 years. And before that, I actually taught in Southern Oregon in Rogue River. So yeah, for the Southern Oregon people, I taught high school there, and I was the activities director at Rogue River High School for 6 years, and I taught in Denver. Anyways, this is my 20th year teaching. So
well, congratulations.
I know they don't give you an award for teaching 20 years, but they should. I want a watch or a medal or something, but then most people just think, oh my gosh, you're an old teacher, you're not with it. Yeah.
I'll bring you some OSAC pens the next time I come to visit you.
I would like some pens.
Okay.
Okay.
Done deal.
That's it.
So thank you again for sharing that information. So the webinar is Promising Practices for Middle School, and we want to recognize that middle schools are unique in the size, the scope, the demographics of students they serve. Stephanie's at a community school, which I understand there are only a few in Oregon. And then also, we also want to recognize that your resources and time available to spend on career and college readiness, you're also doing multiple positions at the middle school. So we want to recognize that too. Our purpose today is have a conversation dialogue about how you are supporting and developing career and college readiness culture in middle school. And we use that term culture because we really think it embodies everything the students are involved with in changing their mindset to think about themselves beyond their middle school experience. And then, of course, importantly, identifying the needs of your middle school students.
Oh, sounds good.
Stephanie, we're really glad you're here. As Rochelle said in the chat, we are recording, so we're going to share this with middle school coordinators. We are finding that timing can be challenging for middle school coordinators. So your words are going to be shared far and wide. So thank you for being here with us. So what I want to do is I want to share a little bit about the resources that we have currently. We know that coordinators access our resources in a lot of different ways, and so we just want to make sure that we're sharing, what we have and that you know where to go. Everything that we're going to be sharing today, both in website and links and resources and attachments that we talk about, you will get from us in an email from your Aspire Access Specialist. So just hang in there. We'll get those to you soon. So you're looking at the Aspire website, I hope. Thumbs up from somebody. Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, we've got a couple different buckets here that you can take a look at. I think the one that's really quite important here for middle school coordinators is the coordinator toolkit. And then taking a look under site administration, we've got two tabs here for middle school program people. So we've got some nice resources here, a starting point. It's a great checklist to sort of even refer back to if you're not really even just starting, just to remind yourself, okay, probably you took some off the top when you got started, and now as you're working into things a little deeper, you might find some other things that you want to add there. Also a near peer mentoring sort of activity in terms of thinking about how to use students who are closer to age with the students you're using. So sometimes that might mean a high school student mentoring a middle schooler, or it could be an older middle schooler mentoring a younger middle schooler. So those are good resources there. So make sure you check those out. Under the tab that we have middle school student activities, so there's some terrific resources here, but we're going to show them to you in a different way. We've realized recently that these links are not working correctly. And so while we get that fixed on the website, we've got some direct links that we're going to send to you in a document. So you can look forward to more there. Another area that we think is really a good one here for coordinators is to go to the toolboxes and resources. Here we go. And this is a place where you can come and you can see kind of like what's new. We post new webinars that we might have done. There's some nice buckets here to just check out and see what kinds of things are available. But kind of scrolling down here, there are student trackers. So there are student trackers for middle school that you can check out, and those can be ordered on our publications order site. But very new and very exciting news. We've got 5 new mini lessons that have been designed for middle school students. You can see that they're listed individually here. And so at each one of them, there's a kind of a small explanation, and then how to get to download the career maze alone, or you can download all of them right here. Each of these comes with an instruction sheet, sort of detailed in directions about how to use it, how much time it might take, what you'll need to put into place in order for it to work, and then also some alternatives, so ways to do it, to take it and turn it into more of a literacy-based project or an art-based project or different kinds of things. So we're really excited about these. They can be used in a classroom, they could be used in a small group, they could be used individually if someone has time with students. So we hope that you will check those out, and we're looking forward to feedback on those as well. The last thing I want to point out to you here is, back here again, the top of our Aspire site, we have, our link to our resources and our webinars down here. So this is how you got here today, but we've got one more coming up for middle school students on May 9th. So this is kind of talking about, whoops, wait a minute, that's not right. Is that right? Yes, sorry, looking towards 23-24. So it's kind of thinking about sort of like that transition to high school. So we hope that you'll be able to join us on that for that webinar as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that for the moment. And then the other resource that I want to share is, I'm going to go back to screen 1 and I'm going to pull up. So what we've done is we've created a document that is actually a, okay, you seeing that now? that says at the very, very tip top, resource list for Aspire middle school coordinators. So this is a simple 3-page document that we've used to sort of collect middle school resources. Well, one of the things that we've heard through this year and other years is that, you know, there's a real blending of middle school and high school resources and suggestions and that kind of thing. And we really wanted to create a standalone place that kind of brings together many of the resources for middle school specifically. And so this document has links and different activities and resources that we think are important. So the first page are some of the resources we have, including the Career College Readiness Inventory, which we hope you're familiar with. We're going to be, this is going to become a version that you can do in a form, so we're going to make it a little bit easier and I think better for sharing information. We've got middle school tracker here. Here again is the mini lessons, and then also an additional activity called I Went To. So these are all available on our website and or directly from us, depending on the particular activity. I'm going to look at this one a little bit later, this I Went To activity, when we talk about staff engagement. So some good things there. The next section is resources that have come from the Oregon Department of Education. And so they've got some really nice things there that they're to support college and career readiness, including for schools that don't currently have access to CIS as a tool to get students engaged and kind of thinking about what they're interested in and that kind of thing. They have the ability to give schools a free license through spring of 2024. And so we've got information on here how to reach out to them in order to do that. And then a really nice new resource that is have just become is becoming available is through it's a Oregon Department of Education along with a department at University of Oregon Communications department. They've partnered to create this great set of career journeys, which really look at young people across the state of Oregon doing a lot of different kinds of work in their communities, and talking very briefly. There are 2 sets of videos. One is just over 3 minutes and the other one's maybe something more like 10, I think. And they're talking about their journey to doing what they're doing now. And so it's a really nice way to just kind of see little vignettes of people who you may not be able to invite into your classroom personally, but you can do it this way. And then in addition to that, they have a toolkit for educators to facilitate discussion and lots of different ideas about how to use this different tool. So I encourage you to click on there, take a look at that. Okay, we're going to come back here. So the last section that we have on the resources here is kind of a broader range of resources. So they're not Aspire and not Oregon Department of Education, but they're broader. So American School of Counselor Association. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But the other one that kind of links to the CIS is U-Science. If you've heard about U-Science, it's another tool for looking at interests and aptitudes and you know, what you're hoping for, what you're thinking about in terms of your future. And right now, the Oregon Department of Education is able to do a program where if you have a volunteer who can work with up to 10 students, they can connect you with U-Science again for free. So that's something to really think about if you've got small groups of students that you might be able to facilitate a U-Science component of your career and college readiness. So we've got that link there. And I think for that, that's all we're going to do for, let me just double check here for now. So I'm going to stop sharing there. So again, we're going to send you this this resource directly. Do you have any questions about any of the resources? I know that that's a lot of different things there. Stephanie, do you have any questions, or you good now?
I'm good. There was more than I thought there was, so that's nice. And I'll go check out some of that stuff for sure. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Gordy.
Great. Thank you, Naomi. So we have identified 3 topics we want to explore today. First is the type of activities you're doing or being done for CCNR programming. We have some examples and ideas. Transitioning 8th graders to high school. As you're starting to think about the end of the semester here, for those 8th graders, how do you transition them to high school? And then how do you engage your staff that you work with? So those are 3 areas that we're going to discuss at this time. So we actually fortunately have Stephanie Woods from Forest Grove Community School to talk about one of their activities. And I was really impressed with the vocational career fair walk versus the traditional career fair where folks come to a gym or a room and they talk with folks from the community. I thought it was really unique and innovative. And so I thought maybe we would ask Stephanie to share some thoughts and ideas and how that became created and the onus behind that. And so, yeah, thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, the career fair walk was good. I'm part of my job, and which is different than most other middle schoolers, is we have Thursdays set aside for experiential learning. So because of that, I always do what we call an out and about on Thursdays, right? And they are aligned with the teacher's curriculum. So it's my job to find activities that align with the teacher curriculum. And January is Careers Month. And so we were trying to find, and I've done career fairs where I brought people in and they sat and the middle schoolers watched them, or parents presented, and I guess I always found them a little bit lacking a little bit, because the kids, they're like, oh, my mom, we're here, you know what I mean? Like, or there's a panel and the kids start, it's hard to keep middle schoolers' attention. Let's just be honest. Like it's really hard, and it's harder now. It's harder than ever. So we're lucky because we live, our school is right across from Pacific University, but it's also downtown. So what I did is I was like, what if we, instead of having them come to us and talk to them about being a baker or being a fireman or being a whatever, what if we just went there? So I walked around town, and I got, this year, I had 20 people who wanted to participate, but I only had time for 8. And we did it over the course of 2 different, like we only did, see, I have 50 students who would need to do this a day. So I basically went to those 8 businesses and said, will you do 4 sessions, 10 minutes each? Which I know, for these kids. So basically you'll be talking for an hour, you'll be booked out for an hour, right? And so I thought it's really too many people to bring 50 people into the bakery and have them learn anything about the bakery, or bring them into the fire station. The fire station would have been okay, but like I wanted to find a diverse set of things. We bring in a lot of professors and very highly educated people and whatnot. But I wanted the kids to see other things going on in our community. So my goal was like, let's show them other jobs they don't normally see in their community. So I had a barber that's across the street. They went and saw a barber. They went and saw a local food market. They went and saw the bakery. They went and saw the fire station. They went and saw like a goods, like someone who sells like really kind of touristy goods. They saw a real estate agent, which was cool. And we have lots of food trucks. So we went to the hot dog stand. Okay, so they did this over the course of 2 weeks, and I went to those businesses and I said, hey, can you talk to my kids for 15 minutes 4 times? And I broke them up into 4 groups. So I only had like 10, 15 kids in a group. And we did a rotation and we walked around town to these different businesses for a day, for 2 days. And it was the most successful that I've ever done that, because they were on site. So the barber was like giving haircuts while they were talking to them about their education, and they were talking about fades and what they do and what they like and how much they make. People were really transparent about how much they make, and which was kind of cool. And they just let the kids ask them any questions, and then we went to the bakery and we walked around and we saw how things were the big ovens, and we saw what they do, and we talked about their timing and like how they have to get there at 3 a.m., but then they're done at this time. Like it was very real. The whole thing was very real, and it kind of took off. So after the first week, I had more businesses contacting me because they said that they got a lot of business from it, because we just brought 50 kids to their business and they saw things and they're like, Mom, I want to go to the bakery. Like when they get home, like I saw something I want to buy for someone at this store. You know what I mean? So like it got them more involved in their community. So next year I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it with 8 different businesses, because, or even, so they could see different things. And then I could return the next day. The hardest thing about planning something like that is timing. It's like the front work. So if you have time to walk to all those businesses, I had to kind of schmooze 8 businesses and get them to be on my timing and get them all to have, 2 to 3 o'clock available on a Thursday, so that's a challenge to have 4 people at the same time doing the same thing, like, and be available for kids. And then I also had to give them, like, a lot of them were like, oh my gosh, we're not teachers. What do we talk about? And I'm like, so I gave them a couple of points to hit, like, just like a little sheet, like, just remember to hit these points. Like, what does a day in your life look like? How much education did you have to get? Like, what did you have to do to be here? Did you always want to be that, or have you changed your career a bunch of times? Like, I mean, they were fascinated by the hot dog stand because it smelled like hot dogs and we were outdoors. But the guy was like, every year I go on a tour of a different place to research hot dogs. You know what I mean? And I eat the hot dogs, and like, I went to New York and ate hot dogs, and I went to LA and ate hot dogs. And this is the way, and they dug that, And so that was really good. And it was a little bit of it was the first year. And anytime you do something the first year, it's kind of a nightmare to plan. Like, but next year it would be easy because now I have the format and the schedule and kind of I know a little bit more about what those businesses need from me to feel comfortable. But all of them said they wanted to do it again. Oh, and we went to a print store to see how like things were printed. Like there's a printing manufacturing company. So we went and saw how advertisements and stuff were printed and what they need to do. But overall, everyone was good. And the behavior issues, which has been an issue in middle school this year, like behavior was pretty low because I didn't make them stay there very long. It was like 10 minutes. As soon as they started getting squirrely, let's walk to the next place, So that was career day walk. And I would do that over career day, sit in the classroom or career day panel. But yeah, it was enjoyable.
That is such a great program, Stephanie, and kudos to you for thinking outside the box. And, middle schoolers can be quite squirrely at times. And so, like you said, now that you've built it, with those businesses, next year will be a little bit easier. And Nomi and I just said, if you need chaperones for the bakery tour, we're willing to volunteer.
Oh my gosh. One group got cookies because he gave them cookies and it was the last group and the other 4 groups didn't get cookies. So I had to like run and go get everyone cookies because I thought I was going to have a takeover. But something else I did is this year I have high school mentors because I'm working with which is another Aspire thing. I'm sure I can talk about that in a minute if you want to talk about that. But I also had their high school mentors go with them. And we did another project with their high school mentors after we did that one that followed a little bit of the same format.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So we're going to talk about transitioning 8th graders to high school, and we would love to hear what you're doing. So again, Stephanie, thanks for doing that. So innovative, and I'm sure the students will remember that, and have a better understanding of what careers might look like outside of college.
I think it was good. I really tried to focus on vocational careers because they don't see that as often. So I have some that want to be firefighters and some that want to be, a couple who want to be barbers. The barbers make money. I think I want to be a barber now because they make way more money than me.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. So Reedsport Community Charter School, Sandra McDuffie was not able to be here today, but I'm going to share a couple of their activities that they did. And also Rochelle, that's one of her sites, and so she might be able to add some information to this as well. Okay, so they had a college and career week at Reedsport, and you can see here are some of the activities that they did. Career day, dress up what you want to be when you grow up. College gear day, your favorite college. Dress for success, wearing business casual, and your future is bright. Rochelle, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I just thought it was so creative. Reedsport Charter is junior high and high school, so it ranges, but getting them all involved in this college and career week was phenomenal. It was, and I guess there was a lot of engagement. In fact, the day that I was there was dress up as you want, what you want to be when you grow up, and I saw multiple kids. There was one girl in particular that wants to be a mechanic, and she had mechanic, I don't know what, like a jumpsuit type thing, that she got from somebody that she knows, and she was wearing it that day. So high participation, and it was just great to see them thinking outside the box.
Great, thanks, Rochelle. And then they also had, this is their flyer that they used. Is that correct, Rochelle?
Yeah.
Yes. So you can see there that Rochelle came from Aspire and did some conversations about looking towards the future for high school success, options beyond high school, those kinds of things to begin those middle schoolers thinking about what the next step might be in high school.
During the Future Ready presentation, I basically talked about, what options are there after high school. So getting them to start thinking about that, but also the things that they need to start thinking about now in order to be prepared as they're jumping into high school and high school classes, considering, a lot of students just kind of sign up for classes and they don't think much about it. But connecting the career piece, like that could be career exploration. And so the classes that they're wanting to take in high school, getting them to think about, wow, I could choose classes, whether it's a CTE class or even a core class, that I want to, explore, and then relate it to, okay, well, what careers can you do using these types of skills that you're learning in those classes? So helping them think ahead about those different options is something that I talked about in the presentation. And there was a great showing. They actually, for their event, they met with middle school. It was middle school through 10th grade. Was the first presentation. That was the Future Ready presentation. And then they had a break, and they provided dinner. Cinnamon rolls and chili is a Reedsport favorite. One of their cafeteria workers makes cinnamon rolls and chili, and it is known throughout the city. And so there was high attendance because they had that. And then we transitioned to the high school event.
Great. Thanks, Rochelle. The last activity that we wanted to share was from Straub Middle School here in the Salem-Keizer School District. So I believe Nomi has that slide just to give you an idea of what they did on Straub Family Night. That's also one of Rochelle's Aspire sites too. So you can see some of the things that they did, including breakout sessions.
Yeah, this was an amazing event. They collaborated. Most of Salem-Keizer School District schools are avid schools. And so a lot of times, they have events, but they opened it up to everybody. And so this was an Aspire and avid event at their school. They again started with food. And then they had different college projects that they had worked on in class and that they presented and they had displayed for families to see. And then they had breakout sessions. And as you can see, there was a variety of breakout sessions. Most students went to the high school student panel Q&A, which we partnered with their local West Salem Aspire coordinator and then their high school Aspire students that came in and basically talked about what it's like in high school, what they need to do to be prepared, the things they wish they knew going into high school. And so it had a really frank conversation, and the panelists answered their questions. It was fabulous. This was highly publicized. Students were encouraged to come because of the connection with the different projects the students had worked on and the food that was offered. They had over 400 people at this event, which was phenomenal for the first time that they've done this. So great program, and I know that other middle schools in Salem Kaiser are also modeling after this event and doing it other events this spring.
Thanks, Rochelle. And I think those transition programs are so beneficial. Having a daughter who's a senior graduating this year from high school, I know that when she was able to go to those, we were able to get a lot of her questions answered, a lot of her fears sort of resolved. And so how do we transition 8th graders to high school? And here's an idea from, again, I believe that's Straub Middle School. For the 8th grade parent night, they had counselors and the principal, the high school, talk about what their high school is about. Maybe they have some special programs. So my daughter went to an IB school. I think it's the only one in Salem. So if they have Avid, so there's lots of different things that they can share for students as resources, an overview of the CTE, if they have honors in AP and what that means, their graduation requirements, and then an Aspire coordinator from the high school and a high school student panel about what I wish I would have known. And then of course handout. So that's a great idea of a 8th grade parent night that you all can be involved with and prep your students for. Some ideas, and I know Stephanie's going to share some of the conversations we had about utilizing the high school in Forest Grove, and there's also an Aspire coordinator there at the high school. But formal peer mentoring programs or leaderships giving a tour of the high school. In Salem Kaiser School District at kindergarten, 6th grade, which is the start of middle school, and 9th grade, they actually don't have any classes that first day of school. So in addition to orientations, they have the whole school to themselves. When my daughter started at South High School, Salem High School, they had peer mentors from the high school and leadership that had training that kind of helped the students understand what a day would look like, the bell schedule's different, the lockers, where everything's located at, what to expect in classroom, et cetera. And she found that very helpful to have a peer mentor, even if it's just for a day, to help students make that transition. But that could happen at the middle school. That could happen at the 8th grade. Visiting the high school campus, another great idea to get students to understand what it might look like in the chaos that's happening in high school and all the different bell schedules and things like that. If you have the opportunity to attend a high school assembly, again, using current students from the high school on a panel. Some high schools have senior research or portfolio presentations. My daughter has an IB art exhibit, that they could take students to that. It's open to the public. And of course, alums from the middle school that are at the high school that could come and talk about what that transition might look like. But I know, Stephanie, you were doing some programming around that, and would love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I've been trying to get a high school mentor thing going for a while, and we've last year it didn't take off as much as I wanted it to, but this year it's been going a lot better. We teamed up with ASB, which is like the student body stuff, and then they made a group where each one of them, their groups at the high school, is in charge of something else. and one of the groups is a community school group. And most of them are alumni from our school who went to our school, who then transitioned up to the high school. And we aren't big, like there's only 56 7th and 8th graders, right? And so, and the NAMS, it's a huge middle school. So we have a lot of anxiety coming off kids going, oh my gosh, I'm going to go this big space after I've been in this little space my whole life. So we've been trying to ease ways. So what we did with the high school mentors this year is they came in and they ran a team building and met kids and then broke into smaller groups and they played games with the kids and whatnot. And that was really great. And then we did a community service day, and they were part of our community service days because one of the things at our school is stewardship. So we have what's called Stewardship Day. And we broke the kids up into different groups, and one group went to, and this was pretty publicized too, it was in the newspaper and whatnot. But one group went to, and the high school mentors went with them. We just kind of incorporate the high school mentors into our things so they get to know the kids, and then they have a resource when the kids get up there. But one group went to the old folks home to do a birthday party for 100-year-old, which is pretty cute. One group went and watched a fire truck, went back to the fire station, and they like washed a fire truck for the firemen. One group put together meals for homeless services, and then those meals got distributed to homeless people. And another group did like a walk where they cleaned up with AmeriCorps, cleaned up their community with AmeriCorps. And then so they were a part of that. And the high school mentors helped lead that. So they did a team building day. In a couple weeks, we're going to see Footloose, which is their play they're putting on this year. And they're doing a dress rehearsal just for us, which is cool. And a lot of times, theaters at the high school, they need to do all their dress rehearsals for someone, right? And so they were like, yeah, if you can get the kids here, that would be great if we could do our dress rehearsal basically for the kids. And then after they see Footloose, they're going to take a tour of the high school. So that'll be great. And then the high school mentors are going to come help us paint a community mural at the end of the year. And we will do a wrap up. And they're also going to come when the kids are forecasting for their classes for next year. So we haven't decided whether we're going to do the forecasting at the high school, like bring the kids back to the high school and they can do a tour and forecast there, or whether we want to do forecasting here just with our high school mentors. And so at that point, when they're forecasting for what classes they want to do, they can have the high school mentors there to talk to them about those classes. And then that's what we're doing with our high school mentors. And it's better than last year, which is just like, they just showed up to our things. They didn't really have a good connection with the kids. They definitely have a more of a connection this year. So it's going well, I think. And there's also a little bit more ownership on them. Like I'm making them plan stuff, because before they were just like, you plan it, we just go along. And now it's like, okay, no, the high school kids as part of their curriculum have to kind of help plan these things. And so they have more ownership over it. I'm working with Vicki Vandaloo, who's the coordinator at the high school too, to just touch base with her about the stuff we're doing too. So that's what we're doing with the mentors.
Well, I love those ideas. I think you just wrote our whole section on transitioning to high school. I mean, those are phenomenal. I think, like you were saying too, making the high school students have some ownership in that, what I would do with student leaders when I was working in higher education was I would say, okay, you've had this great experience. Let's write something for your resume. Mm-hmm. So we did some resume writing, and that, of course, helped. They did it as a group. So I think there's some great opportunities both ways for your students in the middle school and the students in the high school. And I love that they're working side by side. I think, being hands-on, doing something, especially around the community service piece, really breaks down a lot of barriers. So thanks for that.
Yeah, they're definitely getting it as a grade, because it's part of their ASB. So they're having to like show their work and put together PowerPoints and be more involved. And that's better than just having them show up here. So yeah. Yep. So that's the high school mentors. Yeah. I think I got everything.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. So the third section that we really wanted to talk about today is around staff engagement. And what we know is that there's a lot of work to be done, especially if you're talking about creating a culture across the school of career and college readiness. And so we know that it's a lot of work for one, and we hope that you know that we're here to support you, of course, with questions and resources and that kind of thing. But we also really think it's important that you look around you and see who else can really help you in this work within your school. And I heard a really interesting quote during the Fall Aspire conference. This was a quote that James Taylor, who was working for the Oregon Department of Education at the time, said. The quote comes from the Coalition for Career Development Center, and it was that each meaningful career conversation with an educator results in increased future wage earnings and sustained employment in early adulthood. And when he said that, I was kind of like, whoa, like each conversation, like just these conversations that we're having with young people are so impactful. And so then starting to think about, so how does that happen? And he posed three questions that I think are important to think about. So as we're building within the middle school at in this context, thinking about which adults are having career development conversations with students. So which adults are already engaged in this in some way? Which adults are not having conversations about career development, and which students are we missing from these conversations? And so I feel like these three questions, and of course there are more, but these three questions can really guide who is already on the team, right? Who needs to be included? And then in our good work, are we still missing students that aren't hearing it because of the classes they're taking or just timing of their, classes, or, what could that be? So really important to think about those kinds of things. So one of the resources that's on the handout that we're going to be sending you is called Middle School Conversation Starters. And this is a really cool, just a starter place for conversations. So it's kind of like having a few conversations in your back pocket. So when you get the opportunity individually or as a group to talk about, it's from the American Counseling Association. And so they look at behaviors and mindsets, and then they divide it up even beyond that. So like a mindset of belief and development of the whole self, and including a healthy balance of mental, social, emotional, and physical well-being. Okay, so that's a great student standard to have. But then also it divides it up into questions that you could ask parents, questions that you could ask in the community, and questions for students. So a parent, you ask, look over the last few months, how has your student done something that has accomplished something, it's a real highlight for them. And then you're asking the student, tell me about a time you felt proud of something that you accomplished in the last few months. So kind of really helping them focus. These questions could be done, verbally, they could be done in writing, just kind of depends on the situation. But there's a whole list here of questions that I think are really sort of easy to get started. So we've got the link for that will be available to you. And then the next idea that we have is a way to reach out. I'm just going to stop that share, Gordy, there. Thank you. The next one is a couple things. So making sure that all of the people in your building, want to be, part of it. It sounds like, Stephanie is super creative and has been there long enough to really develop good relationships. But, we know as new people come in and they don't have the same sort of context as that great, awesome activity you did with staff, 3 years ago or whatever. So it's kind of like continually building, and then sort of bringing people in. And so a couple of ideas that we have. One is an idea that was used by the Reeds Part Middle School coordinator again, Sandra McDuffie. And so what she did is she sent an email to all of the staff in her building, basically saying, hey, here's an opportunity. Maybe they had an advisory where everyone could do it at the same time, or they picked a time or a literacy class or something. But she sent out some questions that Gordy's going to pop into the chat, basically to say, have a conversation with your students about these things. So it's basically, what was your first job? What was your favorite class in high school and why? What was your process to determining how you got to this career at this point? Major in high school, major in college if you went to college, and what wisdom or advice would you have for students as they're considering their future options? So like questions that are big, but also small, easy to answer, kind of digestible. So you could even take one per day and just say, hey, today talk to your kids about what your first job was. Were you paid? Were you unpaid? Did you want to do it? Did you have to do it? Where did that, what did that look like for you? So I think those are kind of fun ways to sort of start a conversation. Then the other thing is in an email, we're going to send you some attachments for an activity that we call just like I went to, and it's an activity to do with staff and teachers in schools that have a guide for it could be I went to college, I went to into the military, I started a business. It's got kind of just some templates that are already set up so that they can fill it out and say, what was their first job, and it kind of does some of these questions similarly, but then it can also go up outside of their classroom so students can see, oh, hey, this is what my teacher did. And it helps them think about their teacher, not where they are in this moment in their life, but as a younger person and what they were thinking about then. And then, of course, that can become a talking point for students and teachers as well. So we're going to send you the attachments for that activity and the fillable forms and that kind of thing. And then I think eventually we'll get a spot where that lives on our website as well. But we're excited about that as, again, sort of really building across the whole school to sort of build that cultural norm of talking about career and college. Okay. Gordy, I'm going to pop up a slide for you.
So I wanted to spend just a quick few minutes talking about your social media footprint. So when my daughter was in the 6th grade, she needed access to YouTube. She was looking up something and I hadn't looked at YouTube for a while. And then when I pulled it up, I'm like, where did all these cat videos come from? So the algorithm, she was looking at cat videos and makeup or whatever, and that's what kept showing up recommending videos. So that's a way to say that, social media is out there. I don't know what age middle school students are starting to access that information, but that's there forever. So this quote here that in today's world, your first impression isn't made with a firm handshake or an email, it's made with a Google search. And I know I've been on different search committees where that's a tool that's been used. Obviously, there's discussion around ethics, et cetera, but I think anything that's out there is out there and won't go away. So I think it's just a reminder to students that what they're doing now at this age, do they want that to be out there when they're 40 or 50 or 30 or 20? So Rochelle had made this great comment about a tattoo, the tattoo you have at 20, do you want to have it when you're 60? So think about that in a sense that it's permanent in a lot of ways. So just a quick reminder to share that with your students.
Stephanie, I'm curious, is that something you talk to your students about just in general, the sort of social media and that kind of footprint?
Oh yeah, I talked to them a lot about that. Phones are such a problem, and for teachers, it's like when we look at data that's around like our middle school and how many referrals or incidents or bad behavior involved a phone, it's something like 80%. And so that always gets me because I've been teaching since before they had the phones. So, and I know that they're a tool, and I know that, I know that they're a tool and they should use them correctly. But as a parent, also, I have a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old. That's the way they communicate. Like it's their whole thing, their Insta snaps or whatever. And so I do think that the world is bigger because of the phone, but I also think that the world is a small town now. That's what I always tell my kids. Like the world is a small town. Your grandma can know how you partied last night, and maybe you don't want that, and your future job can know. And you need to be really careful and you need to be really nice because that stuff follows you around. So I mean, I definitely talk to my art students about it, and I definitely talk to our middle schoolers about it. And we're constantly having to have conversations over and over again about how to use their phone appropriately. We're about to go to an overnight camp and called Young Leaders in Salem, and it's wonderful. It's like an immersive simulation of government, and it's really cool. But the question I'm getting from parents and students, the one big question is like, how often can I have my phone? When can I see my phone? And it's so different, so I mean, it's in the forefront of their mind and it's constantly needing to be addressed. And I think we're, as teachers, constantly finding new ways to address it, but it is fighting, it's fighting something huge all the time in our classrooms. So it's a big deal, and they need to learn how to use it. But I don't know how much it should be at school. Just gives them, they don't always make good choices because they're in middle school. And I really don't want people judging me right now on how I behaved in middle school.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
thanks,
it didn't
Stephanie.
exist.
Yeah.
Agree. Yeah.
That was kind of a weird roundabout way, but yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. You're in the immersive experience right now, so I thought it'd be good to hear from you. Yeah.
It's really tough.
Well, we want to know if you have any questions. Stephanie, thank you for hanging in there with us. And we're really in a time where we're trying to be sure that we're providing what middle school coordinators need. So we're looking to hear from you about what you need. We are wanting to know, for example, we're going to be sending out a survey to middle school coordinators to say, how do the webinars work for you in terms of the timing and the topics and that kind of thing? And so I know that can be kind of just like one more thing that you have to do, but we really do need to hear from you so that we're putting together the tools, the resources, the timing that are good for you. So, we are really open to all feedback that you have for us.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this. Like I use the resources, so thanks.
Good. That's good to hear. Yeah. Gordy, anything further from you that you want to?
Yeah, I think we're exploring different ideas here in Aspire of how we support our middle school Aspire coordinators. Also recognizing, after talking with the other specialists after I got off the road, that many of you are teachers. So you can't just drop your class or find a substitute to attend some of these webinars. We're also talking about what our fall conference might look like. I remember our conversation last fall about the fall conference and our spring regional meeting. So those are conversations we're having here as a staff and trying to figure out how we best support you all. Well, Stephanie, thanks so much for being here. And I know that the information that you shared with us will be helpful.
Okay.
You're doing great work there, and I appreciate you being there to support your student. I was impressed in my visit there, and even more impressed now hearing what you've done with your program. So thank you.